¿Qué onda, my brothers and sisters? Thank you for joining us on Medicina, SuperMarkRock podcast. I am SuperMarkRock, aka Dr. Mark A. Lopez. Medicina is just that, a movimiento, a movement. I am aiming to motivate gente, the people, the community, to build healthy habits and rituals by speaking to me, gente, my community, mi hermanas y hermanos, my A1s, dope, educated individuals. I want to explore their active lifestyles and strategies to recognize our collective dopeness in the process. And speaking of dope, educated individuals, I am joined by mi hermano, Dr. Amilcar Guzman, aka President of AJ Consulting, aka an OG Latino and Peloton member, aka a global and world traveler, aka a dope education advocate and leader for our gente, a dope scholar, and aka a dope movement enthusiast. Mi hermano, welcome to Movement Medicina, a SuperMarkRock podcast. Appreciate you for being with us this evening.
Thank you for that warm intro. Thank you. Glad to be here, and thank you for all that you're doing to kind of shine a light on wellness and bringing important attention to this issue and making sure that we feel full and healthy and happy.
Absolutely, brother. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you as a guest. I know we go back some years. I do want to give you some additional flowers. I must read your bio to our listeners and to our viewers. I want them to get a little feel about who Dr. Amilcar Guzman is. So if you may indulge me for a second, brother, I want to read your bio, please.
All right.
Please, Dr. Amilcar Guzman is the president of AG Consulting, and he's the program officer at JB and MK Bitzer Family Foundation, an adjunct faculty member at American University School of Education. Dr. Guzman is a first-generation Dominicano whose firm specializes in Latinx, Latino research and is committed to educating the next generation of leaders. He has dedicated his career to developing policy proposals, conducting cutting-edge research, and evaluating education programs. My brother Amilcar's research and writing has appeared in Inside Higher Ed, the Journal of Latinos in Education, the Harvard Journal of Hispanic Policy, the Huffington Post, About Campus, and Latino Rebels. Mi hermano, damn, brother, damn.
Thank you, brother.
A fellow Terrapin, I gotta say that. Fellow University of
Maryland.
Man. That's right. Go Terps, brother. Go Terps.
We out here. We
are, my man. We are out here, brother. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and just, seeing you continue to flourish, continue to see you advocate for our gente, for our communities and education spaces, but also in community spaces across the country. And around the world too, brother. You out there, you're doing your thing across the world in a number of leadership roles, getting that train, those tools, and bringing it back home to our gente. I just, again, I'm a big fan of yous and been following your career for a long time, brother. And it's an honor to rock with you, to know you, my man, and know that we're in this fight together, brother. So welcome again to Muez Medicina. If you don't mind, let's jump into the conversation. Is that cool?
But before we do, I want to give you some flowers because when I was a young Terp, you were one of the OGs, right? You are one of the first Latino male to graduate from Maryland's higher ed program. You were a role model and someone I reached out to and wanted to get support from, and you were always there still, even now, right? So I appreciate you on so many different levels, and glad that we are continuing to collaborate on this journey called life, brother.
Amen. Thank you for that, brother. That's right. I remember that.
Many moons
ago.
Yeah.
Woo, many moons ago, brother. I remember you reaching out and you did it. I know you had a community and village around you, and you did the damn thing, and you continue to do the damn thing, brother. So thank you for those flowers. Much appreciated, fam. Much appreciated. So, brother, so who are you, my man? Who's Dr. Guzman? I know I shared some of your flowers, shared a bit about your bio, brother, but tell the listeners, the viewers, who is Dr. Amilcar Guzman, brother? Who are you?
So I'm a lifelong learner, brother. We kind of talked about the formal version of always going to school.
Yeah.
For me, I'm someone who's always interested in what's next, right? Like what is going on, what's happening, how are we centering different voices in discussion, right? Whether it's those who are like me, first gen, brown kid, family from the Dominican Republic, came from low income, or folks who are coming to this country for the first time, right? How are we centering those voices in those conversations, in those discussions? How are we furthering our learning to being able to do things to to do things like that, right? So I'm someone who is always interested in kind of that quest, that thirst for knowledge, and making sure that we're centering those voices, those discussions. Who's not at the table, and how are we bringing those conversations forward? I'm also someone who really, really enjoys music and dancing. My mom says that, and she tells a story often, right? She's like, when you were little, before you could walk, you would get up and like wobble when there was music playing, right? And she has
Yeah.
pictures of that, right? I'll send it to you, Mark,
Por
afterwards.
favor,
But
por favor.
it's me trying to dance, right? So dancing has always been a core part of who I am, and who I am as a person.
That's right.
It helps me connect to my culture, right? To my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
It's great exercise.
Yeah.
And at various points of my life, I've turned to dancing as an outlet, right?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
In college, I taught dance to students on campus, right? So I was able to then bring my culture to them, right? Someone who loves dancing, someone who loves to travel, learning about different cultures, like how do folks work together? How do they think differently, right? So that to me is something that's so critical. Travel, being able to learn, being able to push, being able to dance, and also looking out for those who don't have those chances and who are not centered in those discussions.
I appreciate that, brother. Yes, I believe we share that same passion for music and dancing. I remember early on just loving music and connecting to music as well. I mean, from the cultura, but also hip hop and soul music and R&B, what we were exposed to at such a young age, man, and what that music did for my spirit. And like you said, it was I mean, connecting to the ancestors through cultura and always music being played at home, not knowing what. I mean, it felt that I was dancing. I mean, you're moving, you're a kid, you're a toddler, whatever.
Right.
You felt that connection, you felt the movement, you felt that spirit through you. So well, of course we'll get into that. I definitely want to delve a little bit into that the music and that movement piece for you. Well, brother, share with us, man. Share, when did your wellness journey begin? When would you say that began for you, your wellness journey?
Oof. It's interesting because like I've been on different kinds of wellness journeys, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a kid, I was a pretty chunky baby, right? And so being throughout my life has been like I've been chunky, and then I've been skinny, and then I've been chunky again, and then skinny again. At times in my life, trying to finish my doctorate, I was chunkier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Middle school, chunkier, right? So I've always been on these ups and downs when it comes to physical wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've always wanted to get better, get more fit. So that's been since I was very young. I can remember wanting to be like, I don't look like other people, and I want to be fit, and I want to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what can I do to kind of get there, right? Like, what are the things that might be uh, uh, the right things for me to kind of get to where I need to actually be? So I think it's wellness is a lifelong journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, when we think about physical, that's something that I think as we grow and as we age, it's something that we want to be able to really embrace
Yes.
and engage fully. I don't think it's ever over, because as I talked about, I've had ups and downs, right?
Yes.
But it's something that I am always going to be focused on, always looking towards, and certainly as I age more and my body changes in even more different ways, it's something that I want to be closely connected to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but there's other aspects of wellness too. I think kind of spiritual, right? What does that kind of look like? So I talked about the body, your soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that looks different for different people.
That's right.
I think one thing that's been very important for me in that aspect of my wellness journey has been being able to use and engage in therapy, right? To
Mm-hmm.
understand what are the key things, the key experiences in my life that have led me to become who I am, right?
Right.
That's been an interesting journey. I think
Mhm.
earlier in my life, being a Latino male, right?
Mhm.
You're often stigmatized for talking about feelings and emotions and wanting to understand. And I really think that it was after college when I was a young professional in Washington, D.C., and starting to grapple with things and starting to look at the way that I was living, that I needed to unpack a number of different things, right? Things that I saw as a child, experiences that I had. So it really wasn't until my early 20s in which I started to have conversations with different kinds of therapists, to really start to understand who am I, right? How am I connected to this world, right? And other worlds, right? What does that kind of look like? So that was, I think, a transformative experience for me in my early 20s. When I was a student at the University of Maryland, I continued that, wanting to understand and grapple with a number of different issues. Mark, as a doctoral student, there's a lot of pressures that you face, and wanting to navigate those things and understand, how do I manage all of this, and who am I, right? That question that I've continued to come back to. And,
No, please,
the,
please, please,
yep,
please.
yep, my journey in terms of therapy, I think the final piece has been living in Chicago for the past 3.5 years, right? And, having lived prior to that in DC for close to 15, that was a transition, a new place, a new city, right? Wanting to understand, again, who am I? How am I connected to? What am I connected to? In that aspect, for me, it was very important to really seek out and find a Latino male therapist, right? One that matches my identity and that could understand a number of experiences that unless you share that, right, it's hard to kind of connect to.
Yeah.
And that, to me, had been, I think, the most recent transformation in that aspect of my wellness journey. Wanting to continue to grow, develop, understand who I am, and how am I connected spiritually to a variety of different things.
I appreciate the transparency. I appreciate you sharing your therapy journey, because I'm a firm believer in therapy, but also normalizing it for our gente, specifically our hermanos. As you mentioned, I mean, it's just such a stigma associated wanting to speak to someone professionally, because we just have so much shit and trauma that we're dealing with as brown men, that our families just sweep it under the rug, or go pray about it. You'll be okay. With all due respect to the
Absolutely.
spirituality of our familias and our upbringing, but just a time when we need more. And I think you delved into both spaces of spirituality and the professional therapy sense, and the necessity of that. So I appreciate it, Manuel, to sharing that journey. And if I understand you correctly, you pursued that in your early 20s, the therapy piece. See?
Absolutely. Yep. So I was 22, 23, and it, for the first time. And, like you said, it was like, should I be doing this? Like, wait a minute. This isn't what a Latino male does. You hold it in, right? You don't really share. You just hold it together for everybody else, and you keep it moving, right? But that was a transformative step that I took, right? And I've been on that particular aspect of my journey. I've been doing that since then.
That's beautiful, brother. That's beautiful. And to that point, my man, why is that? Why is that such a cultural norm for us, regardless of, as a pan-ethnic community, as Latinos, Latinx communities, specifically what's our brothers? It's still the stigma that is heavy on us to pursue formal professional support and care, whether it is group, whether it is individual therapy or counseling, or even confiding in a brother, just talking to another male about what is going on with you. What do you think that's about, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, there's the stigma is still strong. It's evident, right? It's clear, right? And I think it's seen, in my opinion, as weakness, right? To talk about these things, right? I think you should be able to handle them on your own, right? Like, why, one, do you need to talk about them? You're a man, right? Like, you're just like, and you're a Latino male, right? Which is like, no. You are traditionally, right? This is how it's viewed, right? Like, from our parents, grandparents, though, that generation, like, you are head of household, you are strong, right? You don't really say what you feel, right? That's the version of masculinity, right? That I think that exists, and it's still prevalent, right? So anything against that is like weak and wrong, and you should not be sharing. And it's interesting because, I have a group of Latino males that I talk with frequently, and it's refreshing to be able to share the things that we're facing, right? Because like the issues that we're grappling with, right? I encourage everyone to be able to do, right, to change the mindset, right? It's not weakness. I think it's the opposite. It's strength, right? To understand that you need to share those things, and what does that kind of look like, and to seek those outlets to be able to share feelings, struggles, obstacles. There's a lot that you hold, right? And so how are you giving back, right? How are you engaging in those conversations to help improve yourself and to help make sure that that you are centered and that you are on your own wellness journey.
Amen, brother. Could not agree more. I'm a part of a men's group as well. Here, we get together in person every other month, virtually in the in between months, and it has just been an amazing journey to be with brothers, be in community, share space, and just talk about what's ever on our heart, whatever we're experiencing on that day in that season. But to have that space to share with other men, grown men, professional men, that damn, I thought I had it figured out. And see what I'm going through. This is what I'm going through. You too.
Exactly.
Shit, you too. Oh, I thought I was the only one ever dealt with that. Oh, I was dealing with that last year, and never brought to anyone's attention. So here we are sharing testimonials and validating one another's experience, and that we're not alone in this. We're not alone, whether it's in financial challenges, professional challenges, or financial growth, or professional growth for that matter. But we get to share with one another, like, this is what I'm going through at this time. And it's just been beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, man.
Love that, brother.
To be in community.
Love that, brother.
Thank you for sharing yours as well, man. I again highly recommend to find that space, finding a group of men. It doesn't have to be, and I would say it doesn't even have to be your closest friends, but just a community of brothers that you can have and share space and be in community with. I think it's just beneficial all around.
Critical, brother.
Yeah. And let me take a step back. Like you, I had a similar upbringing. I had these fluctuations of weight, and growing up, I was always a husky kid. I was always a chunky kid, and I fluctuated in weight throughout high school, throughout college, throughout grad school as well, depending how stressed I was at. I was a stressful and emotional eater, etc. But I was always stuck on this vanity. Like you meant, I was always stuck on, I need to be a specific way and hold a specific image in my eyes, whether it was media's influence or my family's influence of talking junk and talking crap, saying, what we do. But I always had this perception. I need to look fit. But it wasn't until I started my wellness journey and I went on my healing journey that the looks are for vanity's sake. It's been so much of how I want to feel in the longevity, as you mentioned, and relearning what wellness and fitness and healing was completely in this movement piece that just opened my eyes to a whole new way of life. It wasn't just about dieting and lifting weights so I can look this image where I was always striving to become, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better as a kid because I just heard I was overweight, I was chunky, I was slow, I was the chunky kid. So, but you said that it started, you became to acknowledge that at an early age. Was that elementary school? How early did you realize that you were trying to make change for yourself, if you will?
Oh, yeah, I think I was like eight years old. And I think if I can pinpoint the moment, actually, like now that I'm sitting here thinking about it. And so they say that in Latino families, they will take your quality you least like about yourself and turn it into like your nickname, right?
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. And so I want to give a shout out to my tia. She recently passed a couple of months ago. So rest in peace, tia. I have so much love for her, but she coined the name that really, and she would call me that until I saw her last a year ago. Right. And so like, even being almost 40, that was the name that she would call me. And it was gordo miel, right? Gordo miel. And so I'll translate, right? It means like fat honey, essentially, right? And essentially, she would call me. And I remember it was like I was 8 years old and she started calling me that. And for short, she would call me gordi or like fatty.
Yeah.
and she meant it as of course, a term of
Cariño, yeah, term of endearment.
and I love my
Mm.
tia very much, but like I internalized that, right? From that age
Absolutely.
of being like, oh, you look different. And then, of course, at that age, you have peers who are like, oh man, you're fat because,
Mm.
or you can't run as fast as I can. Right?
Mhm.
So, and that continues on into middle school when you're changing so that's, I think, the earliest point where I was like, huh, I can't really look like this, or I don't want to look like this because I'll get teased or I don't
Mhm.
look like other people.
Mm.
So that's
Mhm.
kind of, I think, the first indication of wanting to make some changes or thinking about, okay, what am I eating? How do I not eat as much or not don't eat as much candy or pizza or fast food, those kind of different things. Back during those earliest years.
8 years old, brother.
Yeah.
Years old,
Yeah.
you realize that.
Yeah.
Wow, familia.
Right. Yeah. Um,
It's no different in my household, man. So I'm like, you totally
yeah.
relate. I
Yeah.
mean, pick a sibling, pick a primo, I mean, yes, similar. They pick that one characteristics on you, and then that becomes who
It
you.
does.
Oh,
Thankfully, the rest of my family didn't call me that. It was just my tia. But it would have been different if it was like everybody then adopted that name. So
mm,
thankfully, it was just her. And over time, I came to see it as a real term of endearment. But at that age,
yeah.
oh, I am fat.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and that's the thing, brother. I mean, you internalize that as a kid. I mean, as you're going through your own development, you internalize how our elders, how people, our role models, familia look towards you, and you're like, well, I guess that's what I am. I don't know anything different. You know what I mean? And just what that did for our own mental health and our own psyche and our own self-esteems, right? Because you're trying to not fit that image because they see it. Here you are, this kid, you see, they're calling you this, and then similar growing up as well. And you're like, well, damn, maybe I am gordito, maybe I am slow, maybe I am not the first one picked on the play hoop or something. Well, they're onto something, I guess, and the thing is, that's what's so messed up. And they were giving us the tools to fix it. They were they
Yep.
were okay, mijo, mija, here, let's eat some more veggies. Let's not eat as much fast food, or hey, let's go for a walk around the block. So nah, they're just
Yeah.
stuck with the name, the name, the name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely right. For me, I mentioned kind of growing up low income. So I think part of that was also a facet of income, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
what was available. And I think, by my mom and that like they did the best that they could, right? So, as I look back, I try not to say, oh, like, should have given me more like this and that,
Right,
right?
right,
But
right.
uh, yes, I think it could have also helped, right? At that point in time, in terms of like, what does the diet kind of look like and how could we improve and change certain things and um, want to incorporate things that might look different. And I think increasingly that's, you know, a facet of income, right? And,
Yeah.
and resources, right? And we're seeing that today. We think about what we're seeing with different supports that are out there, right? For
That's right.
families that might kind of need that, right?
Mhm,
Those things are critical, right? To help ensure that families are healthy and active.
mhm. Amen, man. Amen. And I mean, there's so much advocacy and that is taking place, but still needed
Yep.
as well. I mean, in these times where we're still seeing with the price of groceries, the food deserts, access to good quality groceries, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what we grew up to, what you just shared, what I grew up to as well, being on government assistance, being low income, and not knowing any different. I mean, that's just there was food on the table.
Yep.
We had a roof. I mean, we had a roof over our head. There's food on the table. We never missed a meal. Gracias a Dios. I mean, we didn't. Pero I mean, now in retrospect, like, oh my goodness, that's what we were eating. Oh,
Right.
we were eating what?
Right. Right.
We
True.
were-
True.
I'm just like, yeah, I won't go into that listeners' viewers about that those canned meats and dry foods that we were eating.
Oh,
But I mean,
oh man.
you catch what we're throwing. You can catch what we're throwing.
Oh man.
So, brother, what do you mentioned earlier? You were an avid dancer and lover of music. what are you doing today? You mentioned you have your men's group. You're still going to therapy. What else are you doing for your wellness? You know, in addition to the movement, the dancing, the therapy, the group. What else are you focusing on for your wellness at this time?
I think as I've gotten older, and I talked about this a little before, that my definition of wellness has expanded, right? Before
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like lifting weights, eating right?
Yeah.
But there's so much more, right? There is, how are you resting?
Mm-hmm.
And resting can look different to different people. As easy as like, how do I make sure I get enough sleep, right? And shut down and limit my screen time and limit social media, right? And all these things that are out there to distract you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a key aspect of having a routine in terms of going to sleep, getting up,
Mm-hmm.
trying to limit certain feeds, limit certain things, limit the time that I spend on those on different apps, right? Like all those things are critical to me. I've also undertaken, and this has really been this year, right? To the point of like wellness is a journey. I've undertaken meditation, right? And so
Nice.
how I start the day and really center myself and
Mm-hmm.
and breathe, right? And get breathing and do some breath work.
Yes.
That's been super helpful. And I've grown it across time. I started, being able to just do 30 seconds, and now I'm up to 10 minutes or 10 to 12 minutes a day to start meditating and centering, right? There's so much that we're holding, right? That we have to
Yeah.
engage in with work and personal and family and all these different things. But how are you taking time for yourself to begin? For
See.
me, at least, it's to begin
Begin.
when it's the quietest, when
See.
I'm the most centered, and I'm
Beautiful.
nourishing myself first.
Mm-hmm.
So meditation has been something that's been new this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think one of the last things I think for me is I'll talk about nutrition and diet, right? But in particular, I've really gotten into tea, which is interesting because when I was young and I would see family drink tea, I would be like, why would anybody ever want to actively drink tea? I don't understand. Why would anyone? Now I'm like, that is me. I am a guy who has a cup of tea in the evening, is like, this is great. Nothing better. And as I've gotten again
right.
older with age, I now have to get decaffeinated tea because my point on like sleep.
Yeah.
And like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, like I'd be like, why would anybody make or buy decaffeinated tea? I'm just like, I don't understand. And now I understand because you will be awake. And like people would say that to me when I was younger. I'm like, no, it is true. I will wake up in the middle of the night or like at 4 a.m. Because of having drank green tea. So that I think is something that it
Mm.
helps to nourish me. That kind of tea in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
meditation in the morning, and really trying to limit all of the what I call noise, right? To make sure I can be
Yes.
sharp and clear, right? Those are things for me that
Love it.
I try to strive for and try to put into practice each day.
No, it's beautiful, and I just want to echo the meditation. So on the flip side, go to bed to a meditation a minimum 5 days a week.
Wow.
A minimum 5 days a week. The meditation is on, and I mean I'm out before a 30-minute meditation. I mean I'm out before the class is
Wow.
even over. Highly recommend listeners, viewers, if you have not tried either a morning meditation or a sleep meditation to start your day, to center your day, or to end and wrap up and just get into a nice, comfortable, and relaxing state. Highly recommend Echo Brother Amilcar's advice on the meditation front. It is a beautiful space to focus on your breathing and just centering self, beginning of the day again, or at the end of your evening. Also, the tea. That's a ritual that, yes, 100%. Every night before bed, it's a nighttime / bedtime tea, man. Every night, like clockwork, doing
Yep.
tea. Who would
Yep.
tell me 15 years ago?
Exactly. Like, who am I? Who am I? What happened? What happened to me? What?
That's right, brother. That's right. But I mean, again, these ways that I mean, I think we're both big nerds at heart, lifelong learners that we just continue to read and study and want to pour into ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves and want to nourish our bodies, our spirits, our minds, so they could be just optimal at its optimal space, man. And we're exploring ways, again, the nutrition piece, the meditation, prioritizing sleep. And I will even take it a bit further, prioritizing just being still and calmness amongst the noise, because I think you're spot on, just eliminating ourselves from noise. There's just so much noise and streaming and whether platforms that we can opt into, but just being still and quiet is I believe is powerful. Hard. It took me years to really get to a place of just, again, another form of meditation, I believe, but just sitting still and just relaxing, just being still, my man. I mean, it is a beautiful feeling. It's a, I believe, a space of liberation, because our gente, specifically our elders and our grandparents, blue collar workers, farm workers, predominantly factory workers, working 6-7 days a week, sometimes multiple jobs. Rest was active resistance. You know what I'm saying? Joy was an act of resistance. They couldn't afford it. So here we are talking about meditation, bro, talking about being still and calm. And what a privilege, right? I mean, I own that privilege and recognize that privilege that we can and do so to this day. But again, the shoulders on which we stand on that have afforded us this space to be in this conversation about how we are prioritizing our health, my man. It's beautiful.
And I'll also add, I think what you said about our ancestors, right, and the work that they had to do, for many first generation college students, right, and there's a lot of research that talks about this, like, you got to where you are because you've been striving and you've been grinding and growing. And how do you demystify and de-learn some of those things and step into being comfortable resting, being comfortable meditating? That's, I think, something that I think for many first gen, right, Latino college grads, something that they grapple with, right? And as professionals, how do you continue to grind, but also understand that being still, like you said, focusing on wellness is critical. So, that, I think, is a challenge for many of us that we face, right? And are still grappling with to this very day.
Absolutely. I believe, I mean, we have no shortcomings or lack of hard work with our cultura, with our comunidad. I mean, that is instilled in us. We've seen it. It was role modeled for us by our elders, by our parents, by our abuelos, even those role models, those pillars within our communities in the 70s, 60s, 50s that paved the way for us to have an education, have access to college education. All respect to them, but they didn't have that luxury of resting, to your point. They didn't have the luxury of celebrating their health and wellness. And I say that this the act of joy as resistance, as liberation, and that we get to do this. We're opting in for our betterment, for not only ourselves as brown men, but for our gente, for those that are coming up behind us, to be our healthiest version, so we can continue to fight, so we can continue to advocate, so we can continue to break down systemic injustice and racism, so we can be our best selves to do so, brother. Pouring into ourselves, I think, is the first step. If we're not our healthiest versions, we're not our best selves, how are we going to show up for this next generation? How are we going to show up in these meetings, at the table, in this fight? We hear it time and time again. Elders, not too much older than us, that are falling ill.
Yeah.
To have to retire early, having their health challenges. I'm just like, damn. Yeah. I mean, pick an ailment.
Right.
Heart disease, diabetes, obesity. I mean, pick it. Pick an ailment. And we hear it in our community time and time again, especially, I mean, even as professionals in our field, we see it, we hear about it. Damn, bro.
It's crazy, brother.
Yeah. So you may have heard me say, or even seen me use the hashtag recuerda tu porqué, remember your why. Brother, why do you prioritize your mental health? Why do you prioritize your wellness? Why do you prioritize you, hermano? What is your why?
I mean, a couple of reasons. I think, one is, I think what you said, right? How can you be your best self in terms of showing up in different spaces or for others if your cup is not full, right? You don't have enough sleep, right? How do you perform at work? how do you perform and engage with family, right? If you're not centered, right? That to me, so it took a long time for me to learn that, right? And to the point I said about first Jan, you're just like, I'm gonna go, I'll go. I'm gonna do these things. I'm gonna get involved here. I'm gonna do this, right? And then you start to your effectiveness starts to taper off because you're not rested, you're not centered, right? What does that mean? What does that like? So that's one, like the current, right? How do I show up as my best self? And that looks different in different faces, but that's still the goal. I think the second one is for the future, right?
Mm,
How do I maximize my time here? Here is both literally and figuratively, right? But
mhm,
how do I maximize? Like, how do I make sure that I can live the longest I can the way that I want,
mhm,
right? And all of that is sleep, diet, right? All being healthy and full, right? And how do I show up for future individuals in my life, right?
mhm,
Future family, right? Like how, right? And I hear this from lots of my brothers with kids. Like, how do I show up? I want to live long for my kids and for their kids, right? So that means you need to be active and prioritize wellness in a way that will lead you to be there when that happens. So those things all come to my mind in terms of like not only today for my best self, for what does my future self look like, and
that's right.
who is there, and who do I want to be there for?
Amen. Amen. And I echo that future self because there's just so many unpredictable factors in our lives that just, I mean, as brown men, that I mean, the research, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
speaking of research, shows time and time again, you know what I'm saying? Brown African American men, Latino males, I mean, just goodness. I mean, diabetics, heart failure, cancer. I mean, again, pick an ailment, brother, that are taking our brothers' lives. And what can we do? What can we do to control what we can't control? Nutrition, nutrition, movement, meditation, rest. Again, acknowledging I'm a privileged individual and I can say these things, that I can prioritize these things. That, but again, what can I do for my future self so I can be here a little longer for those that are coming up behind me, those that are looking to me, my nieces, my nephews, my younger siblings, you know, etc. And damn, Theo Mark is he's doing it. He's doing
Yeah.
it. And
And
so can I. So can
right. And then you're encouraging them. You're kind of being that role model for them in a way that I think helps them also want to prioritize what does wellness look like for them, and how can they continue to improve going forward.
Mhm, mhm. And brother, speaking of growing up, did you have anyone that was into wellness? I mean, yeah, you mentioned the dancing and the music, but anyone in your familia, were they active? Did you see anyone growing up in those spaces?
So my older brother is what he would call himself is a natural athlete. Uh, so I am not, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Um, so yeah, I saw him and he
Okay.
wanted me to step in that space, but that wasn't my path. But seeing
Mm,
him, like, I remember he played football and soccer. So seeing him like do those things.
mhm,
Um, and I think as an adult, my one of my nephews, right, has inherited that gene from my brother, right? So it's been great to see
mm,
him now, me as an adult. He's still kind of providing that support. I mean, he was the quarterback of his like high school, tremendous. Like, so it's been inspirational to see him kind of step into his role since he was young, lifting
mm,
weights and doing all these things. Uh, yeah, so I think those within my family, those have been people who have been, I think, within this wellness and movement
mhm,
journey. They've been
mhm.
kind of key figures in terms of how they've been growing and developing.
Got you, brother. Got you. I mean, I believe in the representation piece. I mean, as a brown man, as a Chicano male, as an educator, both of us as educators, I believe we're both movement enthusiasts, health enthusiasts specifically, that we belong in these spaces. We belong not only just in education spaces, but in wellness and health spaces as well, whether it's yoga, meditation, sound baths, nutrition coaching, health coaches, etc. I believe in that representation in these spaces. How do you, brother? How do you show up as a role model? Because I believe you are. I mean, not only to your nephew, but to others in CHCI, others that are coming up behind you in the spaces that you represent and you're involved with. They look to you and look up to you and seeing what you are doing, seeing the work and your impact. How do you show up as a role model in these spaces, bro?
That's it. That's it. Well, thank you for that. That I think is a deep question. And, I think for me, I think authenticity is important, right? So I think I'm
Mhm.
very, I've been
Mhm.
honest throughout this conversation about
Yeah.
here is my name as a kid and I'm not an athlete. All that is true, right? I mean, those are just facts. So for me, in conversations with folks who are my age, older, younger, I always seek to kind of be authentic. This is where I'm at. These are my struggles. This is what I'm dealing with.
Mhm.
I think that's very important for us as professionals, us as individuals,
Yes.
us as members of a family. So that to me is critical. I think I'm a big, as I mentioned, enthusiast. I tell people about dancing. I think going back to being an educator and a teacher and a
Mhm.
dance teacher in college, I think everybody can and should dance, right? There's different ways, right? There's so many benefits to doing that, right? For
That's
me,
right.
as I mentioned, it's connecting to my culture. It's getting exercise. It's meeting people, right? It's being able to have that connection, right? So I often encourage people to go out and do it, and everybody can dance. It's just a matter of how, and if not, you push yourself to learn, right? To learn something
Yeah.
new, to learn something different.
Mhm.
Um, and I think being, as I said, kind of being a proponent of therapy, right? In conversation, that to me is something I pass on frequently in my
Mm.
conversation. I offer it up unprompted because I'm like, this is something that everybody should benefit from, and that everyone should do that work, right?
That's right.
We all have to do that work, right? We all have things that we're dealing with from our past or our present.
Yeah.
We all have obstacles, right? That's how we are the person we are through the things that have shaped us. The
Mhm.
work is how do you manage those things? And we all have to
Mhm.
do it, right? So
Mm.
I'm a huge proponent in doing that work. And it's hard because
Mhm.
you'll encounter things. I don't want to face this, or
Yeah.
why am I like
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Right. But unless you do, you will you will repeat patterns across time.
That's right, brother.
So that to me is how I kind of show it, being honest, true, being a proponent of getting out there, pushing yourself, and being a proponent
Mhm.
of doing the work, the hard work that no one else can see, but you can feel.
Amen. I mean, we're all battling something that we don't share with others. We're all battling internal traumas and pain at some level that we don't share with others. And I strongly believe that we are on a healing journey throughout life because we come from generational trauma as systemically oppressed and underrepresented communities in the United States. We come from these traumas that our ancestors, our elders, didn't have resources to seek out therapy or attend the gym or eat healthy or speak to an elder or a spiritual leader for that matter, or it was very far and few between for that. So we show up in these spaces as our authentic selves, and I love the fact that you say that because again, as brown men, we just can become so guarded and just and not show this to our community, especially the young brothers, that this is the real me. And I'm arriving in this space in front of you as the real, authentic, and vulnerable self. And this is what I've gone through throughout my journey, this thing called life. And I want to share it with you because I want you to learn from what I've experienced and have gone through, so you don't have to face it. Because life is hard as it is, right? life is lifing.
For sure. And if someone can share, here's a here's a rope, here's a roadblock, you got to go around it, go a different way,
Yeah,
then that is, I think even more helpful to hear that from our
yeah.
gente, from our
Amen. Amen. So tell the listeners and viewers, brother. Sorry, I didn't ask this earlier, but what type of dance do you teach, and what's your
brother.
preference? I know you said
So
cultura,
being
so
Dominican, everybody
uh-huh.
knows that bachata is central to who we are. So I'm a bachatero for sure. And
Okay.
there's different versions, like there is like sensual
Hmm.
but I'm more of a traditionalist in that sense. So I love a good bachata. Merengue also, right? That's what I mentioned that I would get up and that's what I would dance to, right? So that's like in my blood. And it's hard to explain. Like I can't explain it. It's just like I
No,
feel it and I'm
that's
like,
right.
gotta go.
Hmm.
And of course salsa is something that I also love and something I had to learn, right? So speaking of like lifelong learner, I didn't pick up that till like I was in high school.
Mm.
So like that's a thing that like I have learned, and I think more so than merengue and bachata, right? But those versions of dancing, and then as I've gotten older, like different kinds of dance, tango, cha-cha, punta, cumbia, all these different kinds that I'm just like, let's try it, right? That's how I stay connected, and I continue to kind of learn. Continue.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I didn't learn. I didn't learn how to dance salsa. I didn't. I don't think I believe I heard salsa until college. I mean, I didn't grow up to it. In the
Yeah,
West, I didn't grow up listening to salsa, especially growing in the barrio I come from in Phoenix. We listened to lowrider oldies, hip hop, soul
there you
music.
go. There it is.
That's what we lived on. That's what my parents listened to. So, like you said, always hearing this music in the house, in the car, going from point A to point B. My mom or my dad or tia or tío, they were always blasting oldies, soul music, soul old school R&B music from the 60s and 70s. And like you, and just felt it and just hit that a little head nod. You're like,
Okay.
this is speaking to me. It's just, you know what I mean?
There you go.
It stuck, but it wasn't until college when I was first introduced to salsa, merengue, bachata. I mean, instant connection. I'm like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. And learning about the history and the story of salsa in Nueva York and in the salseros, and then and just even going back further to boogaloo, Latin boogaloo, and
Yes.
big bands and todo eso, man. It's just beautiful sound, beautiful genre of music. Yeah, I mean, every opportunity to it's on like you, just getting out there and in the spirit of community, brother, just breaking down. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Definitely, definitely.
So, brother, what words of wisdom would you have for our listeners, our viewers, who have not begun their wellness journey, or just feeling stuck, like they just don't know, they just hit a rut, they just don't know where to go, they don't know where to turn to. What would you like to tell them?
So I think a couple of things. One is progress is not linear, right? Or life is not linear, right? And I mentioned as a kid and growing up, chunky, skinny, chunky, skinny, chunky, skinny, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's like, I think the first thing, right? That's normal. Just like other aspects of life. I think the second thing is, you know, wellness is not just your physical body.
That's right.
I think that's the other thing when people think wellness, it's like, oh man, I got to diet and I got to work out. But as we've been discussing, there's multiple aspects and multiple facets to being to wellness. What you can, what you consume on social media, to your rest, to meditation, to how you're connected spiritually. All those are different aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in balance, right, then that's okay, right? You're kind of focusing on other areas, right? You're delving into different areas. So that I think is the other piece to expand how we define wellness, right? Not just one way. There's multiple aspects, and seeking to kind of learn and grow from all those different areas.
That's beautiful. I cannot agree more that to continue to learn and grow, whatever the modality is. If you want to focus on nutrition, if you want to focus on breath work, if you want to focus on the spiritual side of your wellness journey and healing journey, turn to that, dig into that a bit, but give yourself some time to get acclimated and to build a routine and ritual of this practice, whatever the space is. Eating better, if it's dancing, if it is gardening, what getting outside for 20 minutes a day, whatever that space, give yourself some time to get into a routine, because like you said, it's not linear. This practice, it's not. I mean, it's just I began my journey 7 years ago. It's hard to believe that I began this wellness journey 7 years ago. As I shared with you, I was doing this all for the wrong reasons, for vanity's purpose, to look a certain way, but not to feel good and for longevity's purpose. But I did not know what that meant until I became a student of this space of wellness and mental well-being and my own healing and what that looks like. And as you said, brother, it's not it hasn't been a linear journey at all. It's been multiple chapters, multiple facets that of this journey of spirituality. In this chapter, nutrition, the movement piece, and how am I incorporating music as therapy? Now, how am I bringing more therapy, other different type of therapists into the conversation when it was just one this one individual I was going to. So absolutely, brother. Thank you for sharing that. It is not a linear journey by any stretch of the imagination. Thank you for that. It's Dr. Guzman, what comes to mind? Let me ask you this. What comes to mind when you hear or even when you see Moving Medicina?
Wow. I mean, I think when I've seen, right, seeing you and talking about it and the way that you talk about it, and it, to me, it's like it's critical to who we are, right? And medicine, I think, can be described in so many different ways. You have the traditional sense,
Mhm.
cultural sense, historical sense, right? But I think it's really central to us and what we need, right? It's as it's equivalent to air, water, right? The basic necessities that we need in order to be successful. We need to be able to move, whatever that looks like, run, dance, walk. It's essential for us to be healthy, happy, and whole.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate those words. Thank you. I asked my previous guests, you don't know who they are, they didn't know you. Give me one question for my next guest. Give me something that you would like me to ask them. So here's our question for you, Ro. What do you want your legacy to be? Whether it's in education or in wellness, what do you want your legacy to be?
That is so deep. I'm gonna have to think of in one equally as deep for the next question. Um, yeah, I think I've been very fortunate to be in spaces that I think, like you were saying before, we're extremely fortunate to be in where we are in terms of spaces.
Mhm.
And for me, I always try to advocate for those who are not able to be in those spaces, right? That's the reason why I went to get my doctorate, because I could get into spaces and help make change for
Mhm.
those who didn't have that opportunity. So that's how I think I would like to be um, remembered, I guess, in terms of legacy, right? Being able to do that, that is the point of all my work, right? Professionally, personally, right? Being able to provide that perspective, that point of view. I think also someone who is, I mentioned, authentic and real, right? Very like, this is me, this is who I am. Like I don't need to hide from who I am.
Mhm.
Uh, this is what I'm about. I think those two things are, I think, when I think all aspects of my life and things that I've done and how I'd want people to describe me, it would be those things for sure.
Mm. I mean, I know you mentioned a few times, bro, that's the having you want to make sure people have our gente specifically want to have a seat at the table. Now, I want to take you a step further, and the work you've been doing and that I've been following throughout your career is that you're building the table, hermano. You're building the table for us
Oh
to
gosh.
be seated at that table. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're identifying ways. Yeah, we belong in these spaces. We belong at this table. We belong at this table. But you are even taking as far as you are starting and have been, not even starting, you have been building a table for our gente, for our brothers and sisters to have the opportunity to have their voice, to share their testimonies, to share their experience, my man, and you continue to do so. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, and thank you for the work that you do, fam.
Appreciate you, brother. And
Yeah.
as I said, you, from when I was young, an aspiring doctoral student, you kind of paved the way, and our conversations many years ago helped kind of gave me the the uh, the ability and the thought, the motivation to be able to move forward. Right. So you've been a critical part of my journey,
Thank you,
and
brother.
want to thank you for that, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. So give me on the flip side, hermano, give me a question that you would like to ask my next guest. You don't know who they are, you don't know who it is, but give me one question that focuses on wellness, mental health, fitness, spirituality. Give me a question for them.
That's deep. Uh, Ian, how do you not live in regret when it comes to your wellness journey? So how do you make sure that you're living
Mm,
in your purpose?
How do you make sure you're living in your purpose, not in regret? I love that. I love that. That's deep, fam. That's deep.
Right. So I try to do what is equally deep as I got. So yeah. Mhm.
That is. Well, Dr. Amilcar Guzman, I am continuously inspired by you and Mano. please keep doing the damn work that you're doing. We need you in these conversations. We need you in this fight, la lucha. I'm constantly inspired by you. You're a blessing. You are sacred. I mean that, and I mean it's an honor to rock alongside you in this education fight. So I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate you sharing and as well as your transparency with the listeners and viewers, my brother. So thank you, man, for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you, man.
brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
Mi gente, remember, recognize your dopeness. We are dope, educated individuals. I firmly believe that. Like this episode, ask us questions, give us feedback. Follow me at Moving as Medicina, as well as SuperMarkRock, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts at Moving as Medicina. Oh, let me, before I forget, Dr. Guzman, where would you like to be found? Where, LinkedIn, social media, where would you like to be found, my brother?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is great, and it's just my name. But I think also Instagram is always a great way to connect with people too. It's Dr. underscore A Guzman, and I'll be happy to connect with folks there too.
Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. Mi gente, recognize your dopeness. Gracias for your time, for your listening, and for the viewers out there. Paz y luz.